Okay, the moment we've all been waiting for, the last slideshow of this unit. So today we're gonna explore the causes and the events of the War of 1812. Do not forget that we have a test on Thursday. Please be prepared. We have the slides on the website. But the do now, this is just a recap. Why did the Federalists oppose the Louisiana Purchase? So some things going on at this time with world trade. There was the Chesapeake incident, which was an American ship that was bombed because it was trading with quote unquote um, enemy um, enemy territory. So the United States passed the Embargo Act, which was that the United States couldn't trade with any foreign countries. Um, they pretty much just did that because they didn't want um, any issues like the Chesapeake incident. But there was a lot of pushback because that really hinders the economy. So then the Embargo Act was taken out and it was replaced by the Non-Intercourse Act, which was the pretty much the same thing as the Embargo Act, but it was just with France and Britain, so we couldn't trade with France and Britain. So some other conflicts before the war. Um, Hunters, trappers, and farmers moved to British Canada and Spanish Florida, which caused more conflict, with the Native Americans. Whenever settlers go places, they have run-ins, and it can't really be settled. So an Indian chief named Tecumseh, he led some Native Americans against the United States, and um, that is how the Battle of Tippecanoe happened. Um, Um, so since the British have a history of supplying Native Americans with weapons to fight us, there were a group of Americans called the Warhawks. They were against the British, and they were ready for war. And President Madison at this time finally got rid of the Neutrality Proclamation and the neutral stance with foreign affairs, and he declared war. So the first phase, the U.S. focus was on Canada. Um, so the USS Constitution was a naval ship that was in the Great Lakes, and Captain Oliver Perry, he had some victory on Lake Erie, and Harrison had victory at the Battle of Thames. The reason that we wanted to focus on Canada was so that they wouldn't come into the United States first. We would try to stop them at the border. It's just a picture of what the battles might have looked like. The second phase, so 13,000 British reinforcements to Canada. Um, so then what happened was Washington, D.C. was captured and buildings were burned. Um, the state building was burned down, so that was kind of a major setback for us. So then they moved from Washington to Baltimore, which was the battle at Fort McHenry. And fun fact about the Battle of Fort McHenry, that's where the Star Spangled Banner was written. Bombs bursting in midair. That was at Baltimore. So next time you're at a football game and you listen to the words, you could be like, "Hey, Mr. Kraft taught me that." So next was the Battle of New Orleans. But before the Battle of New Orleans, something happened. The war ended, but they didn't know that. So Andrew Jackson led like this ragtag group of people into Florida, and then they got the enemy to surrender. And what happened then was they came back and were like, "Yeah, like we won, we won." Turns out the war already ended like 2 weeks before then, but they didn't know because they don't have like the technology that we have now. This is just, a somber picture of a building in Washington, D.C. burning down. But at the end of the war, so the Treaty of Ghent, all conquered territory was returned, and then the boundary between Canada and US was solved. So right now, that's actually the longest peaceful boundary in the world, us between us and Canada. And then something that happened last was the Hartford Convention. So there were some people in New England. They were upset with how things went down. They thought they were neglected. So they all got together and wrote a list of grievances, and they were gonna say what was wrong. They were gonna demand the government for money, and they wanted changes in policy. So they were marched down to Washington, D.C., and they were going to complain. But when they got there, everyone was celebrating because the war was just won. So they actually just retreated back to New England because they didn't want to look too petty. So guys, if you need to study for the test, be sure to look at these videos or the slides on the website. But please be ready for the test. All right. Good luck.